For decades, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant stood as a monument to human ingenuity, a titan of steel and concrete carved from the Japanese coastline. The surrounding town of Akuma thrived in its shadow, its people living ordinary lives in extraordinary proximity to one of the most powerful structures ever built. Workers arrived each morning like clockwork. Children walked to school. The ocean was calm, the sky familiar. Then, on March 11, 2011, at exactly 2:46 in the afternoon, the earth itself broke the silence. The sea pulled back. The ground cracked, and the world held its breath. The exclusion zone became one of the most studied and most feared places on Earth. Scientists in protective suits moved carefully through streets where life had simply stopped. Supermarkets still had food on shelves. Calendars frozen on March 2011. Clocks that had stopped ticking. Nature, indifferent to radiation warnings, began its slow and relentless reclamation. Weeds pushed through pavement. Trees grew untrimmed over rooftops. Wild boars roamed empty intersections. The world outside continued moving, but inside the red line, time obeyed different rules. Every measurement taken, every sample collected, every photograph captured was a piece of evidence in humanity's most urgent scientific investigation. The battle to contain Fukushima was unlike anything engineers had ever attempted. Beneath the damaged reactors, melted fuel had burned through containment vessels and settled into unknown positions deep underground. No robot sent inside had ever returned with a complete picture. No human could enter and survive long enough to assess the full damage. Yet thousands of workers showed up every single day in protective suits, rotating shifts, measured doses of radiation to fight an invisible enemy with science, steel, and extraordinary discipline. The world watched. The work continued. And slowly, painfully, the outline of a long-term solution began to take shape on engineering blueprints. No blueprint existed for what they were attempting. Engineers designed solutions to problems that had never been solved before. Robots sent into spaces no human could survive. An underground wall of frozen earth built to stop contaminated water from reaching the ocean. And a water treatment system processing millions of liters of radioactive liquid. Every day, thousands of workers rotated through the site in protective suits, each one contributing a measured dose of their own safety to the collective effort. Scientists from across the world gathered to study, debate, and advise. The scale of the operation was staggering. And yet, the work continued, shift after shift, year after year. The decommissioning had no precedent in human history. Fuel rods were extracted one by one from pools that could not be allowed to fail. Robotic systems were engineered from scratch for interiors that no living person could enter. Waste was cataloged, contained, and transported along empty roads under heavy escort. And all around the plant, the town that once supported it continued its slow transformation. Nature consuming what humans had abandoned, street by street, roof by roof. 6 years in, the scale of the task ahead remained almost incomprehensible. But the blueprints were drawn, the teams were trained, and Japan had made its decision. No matter how long it took, Fukushima would be resolved. After years of silence, the first roads reopened. Former residents drove slowly back into streets they had left in minutes, carrying nothing. They found their homes still standing, covered in vines, filled with dust. Frozen in March 2011. Decontamination teams worked block by block, removing the invisible from the visible. Rice paddies were planted again. A school reopened its gates. Children played in a courtyard that had been silent for 7 years. Each measurement, each cleared street, each returned family was a small act of reclamation against an invisible force. The return to Fukushima was not triumphant. It was quiet, careful, and profoundly human. In 2023, Japan made a decision that divided the world. After years of storing over 1 million tons of treated radioactive water in tanks that were running out of space, The government approved the controlled release of LPs-treated water into the Pacific Ocean. Scientists from the International Atomic Energy Agency reviewed the data and declared the plan safe by international standards. But neighboring countries protested. Fishing communities feared for their livelihoods. Environmental groups raised alarms. The debate was fierce, global, and deeply human, because at its core, it was not just about water. It was about trust, about risk, about who gets to decide what is acceptable when the ocean belongs to everyone. By 2024, FUKUSHIMA, the town at the very heart of the exclusion zone, the town that sat in the plant's shadow, had begun its own cautious return. Streets that had been silent for 13 years heard the sound of construction again. A new town hall was built. A community center opened. A handful of residents moved into newly constructed housing on land that had been carefully decontaminated. It was not the same town. It would never be the same town. The people who had grown up there, raised children there, buried their parents there. Many were too old, too settled elsewhere, or simply unwilling to return to a place that carried such weight. But someone was there, and that mattered more than the numbers ever could.